Hi everyone, Becky here. Welcome to the first episode of SFF Spotlight in the year 2024. SFF Spotlight episode 48. Yeah, we are now 48 episodes deep into this series of videos. And for those of you who are new here, this is a series of videos where I will talk about new special editions, new Kickstarter campaigns, new cover reveals, new book news in the adult science fiction and fantasy genre, together with new noteworthy release as well. I have compiled about 3 weeks of content into this one video, and in total, again, we have about 20 topics to talk about today. Let's begin by talking about new Kickstarter campaigns first. Publishing has certainly resumed again, and that includes Kickstarter campaigns. Let's start with the first one, which is a Kickstarter campaign by Wraithmarked Creative, also the sponsor of today's video. If you have been following my SFF Spotlight video, you will know that Wraithmarked Creative is best known for doing some incredible deluxe editions of some of the community's favorite fantasy books, including the likes of Legends and Lattes, The Sword of Kaigen, and many more. Now they're taking on their most ambitious project yet, and that is The Shades of Magic by V.E. Schwab. V.E. Schwab is the author behind many popular fantasy books such as The Shade of Magics, Vicious, The Invisible Lives of Adi LaRue, and a lot of other popular fantasy books. And she has apparently been working indirectly with Wraithmarked Creative on the first book in the series of The Shade of Magic, the illustrated edition of A Darker Shade of Magic. Rovina Kai is doing the cover art of the book, as well as the full wrap illustrations of the hardcover case. And some of you might know that Rovina Kai is one of my favorite artists, and also the dust jacket is additionally going to be embossed and foiled with matching metal gilding on the page edges and an included ribbon bookmark. But this is an illustrated deluxe edition. There is more. Felix Ortiz is the artist in charge of the full color and sheets and at least 10 black and white interior illustrations, and even more to be potentially unlocked with stretch goals. Finally, the book also comes with a completely custom crafted design from top to bottom by Sean T. King, with everything from the cover to the chapter headers to the section breaks being designed only for this project. I personally think that A Darker Shade of Magic is the best book in the trilogy, and well, I know that there are many V.E. Schwab fans, and I think Rovina Kai and Felix Ortiz fan as well. So make sure to check out Wraithmarked's Kickstarter campaign of A Darker Shade of Magic in the links down below, and back it if it's suitable to your liking. I think the design and everything about this, especially Rovina Kai's cover art, looks absolutely incredible. Thank you so much once again to Wraithmarked for sponsoring today's video. And moving on to the next one, the second Kickstarter campaign that I want to spotlight today will be for a new book titled The Crimson Court by Brendan Noble, and this is also a deluxe release edition. The Kickstarter campaign will be done to hopefully fund the production of this beautiful book. The Kickstarter will include deluxe full color and original black and white versions of the book's interior, featuring 3 maps, 3 characters' portraits, case art, chapter heading decorations, theme page designs, and a chart of Noble House emblems. The cover art and the case cover art are done by Katarina Vitkovskaya, and the portraits are done by Joni Matos. I personally haven't read anything by Brendan Noble yet, so I cannot tell you regarding the overall quality of the story here, but I do think the cover art and the case art and also the character portraits do look nice. So yeah, make sure to check it out in the links down below. And here is another Kickstarter campaign for a soon-to-be-released fantasy book. I assume this one will be a grimdark fantasy, and this one is for Elegy of a Fragmented Vineyard by Kaden Love. What an incredible title. And also, the book will be released on the 24th of January, so that's about 2 weeks from now, and Kaden is going to use Kickstarter to fund the physical release of his fantasy debut novel. This is the premise. Forced to appease the policies of a foreign fiefdom, Fenrir must do the unthinkable, harvest organs from infants. 10 years ago, a new generation of children began to manifest abilities from the gods. Now, nearly half the continent has chosen to graft the organs granting the abilities into adults. These gifted children are no longer the only ones with divine power. Fenrir will no longer participate, but can he repent his sin before all morality is lost? Meanwhile, Erhi will give all to preserve the process of harvesting, silencing those who oppose her people. Will this land of peace resort to the barbaric practice of war? In the battle of preservation and progression, there can only be one victor. I'm a fan of grimdark fantasy, and I think this one sounds intriguing to me. I will try to read this one as soon as I can, hopefully within this year. And the last Kickstarter campaign I want to spotlight today, and this one will be a brief one. This is regarding the Cradle anime Kickstarter. So yeah, Will White has decided to fund the production of their anime adaptation of the Cradle series. And I don't think Will White need my help in spotlighting, in giving more spotlight to Cradle. But know this, if you are a fan of Cradle, apparently the first stretch goal will be for a funding or a publication of a new book in the Cradle series. And I think this one will be a collection of short stories or maybe novellas in the Cradle series. So yeah, I think that will be one of the fastest first stretch goal to ever be met. So that's it for Kickstarter campaigns. And I know that some of you asked me regarding I know about the transparency of Kickstarter campaigns. Unfortunately, I cannot share too much details because, well, I'm not the one in charge of all these Kickstarter campaigns. But if you want to know more about this, well, the next spotlight, I think I will give it to Zack Argyle's year in review for the year 2023. So the thing is, this is one of my favorite year-end reviews. Zack Argyle's year-end review is actually one of my favorites because one of the things that he always put in his year-end review is transparency regarding profits, revenue, and also production, advertisement for all of his books. And that includes the transparency on his Kickstarter campaign, the Threadlight Trilogy Omnibus. And I think if you want to know more details about this, you can definitely take a look at this year-end review. I think it is quite beneficial. It also goes to show just how much he spent on hiring cover artists and also interior artists to do the artwork inside his Threadlight Trilogy Kickstarter campaigns. And this will help you decide whether some Kickstarter campaigns are worth their value or not. But if you want to know more about this, make sure to check out the year-end review of Zack Argyle's in the year 2023, and also he'll talk about some of his ambitious projects that he's going to release, hopefully as soon as he can. And I will be reading the Threadlight Trilogy for the first time within this year, hopefully soon. I'm waiting for the Kickstarter edition of the Threadlight Trilogy Omnibus to arrive first. And before we go back to talking about special editions, there are two more year-end review that I want to talk about today. The next one will be for Ryan Cahill's year-end review, or the year according to Ryan Cahill. Yeah, that's the name that he's dubbing his year-end review. And in that blog post, he talked about his upcoming projects. And of course, he's right now busy working on Of Empires and Dust. But some readers, some of his fans are worried about, well, The Bound and the Broken being finished. Some of them are pretty sad about it. But Ryan Cahill is not the type of author who want to extend his series beyond what it needs. And I think that is an incredible thing to do. But this is not the end of everything in The Bound and the Broken. This is not the end of the story being told in the world of Etheria and The Bound and the Broken. There is still a lot of stories to tell. And Ryan Cahill talked about 3 series that he will release in the same world. The first one is The Age of Honor, which I assume will be the prequel series that takes place about thousands of years before the events of The Bound and the Broken. And then The Exile and The Huntress. I think we can assume that this is about Dane and Belina. And finally, The Chainbreaker Saga. I think this one will be again another prequel series, but I cannot say too much about this because it will be a spoiler. But yeah, this is not the end of everything in The Bound and the Broken. I mean, it is the end of The Bound and the Broken, but it is not the end of everything in the world of Etheria. Maybe it will be titled the Etheria Saga, I have no idea. But yeah, that's the year-end review by Ryan Cahill. And finally, the last year-end review will be The State of Sanderson 2023. But I will not talk too much about this in details because, well, I think it's better for you to take a look at them. But it has been confirmed that the Stormlight Archive Book 5 is officially titled Wind and Truth. And I'm not too happy about that title right now. I think it's too plain for a book in Stormlight Archive, but the content is what matters most. And yeah, I think with Sanderson being done with the first draft of Wind and Truth, everything is on progress to be released in December 2024. And then he talked about his future projects for The White Sand, Skyward Legacy, and then Mistborn Era 3, the continuation to Elantris. And for Stormlight Archive, the second phase, or Book 6, that is not being released until, according to Sanderson, 2034. Yeah, that's 10 years from now. And the way I see it is this. Stormlight Archive Book 5 is the end of Stormlight Archive. That's the way I will look at it. I will think of it like Mistborn, the first trilogy, and then book 6 until book 10 will be like Mistborn, the next era. And that's really my brief and overall thoughts regarding the state of Sanderson 2023. If you want to know more, then make sure to check out Sanderson's blog post yourself. And also, moving on to the next topic, this is regarding book 6 of the Sun Eater saga. So the full spread of Disquiet Gods has been revealed, and well, I am so happy that I, along with other booktubers like Treebeard, Mike Book Review, and also Daniel Green, are featured on the book. I think this is pretty cool. I'm reading Kingdoms of Death right now at the time of recording this video, and I look forward to reaching Disquiet Gods. Also feeling a bit sad because I'm about to finish reading every book available in the Sun Eater series by Christopher Ruocchio. But on top of that, just a reminder, it is possible to read the book early by buying the e-arcs, I think e-arcs from Bane Books. So this is official. It is possible to actually buy the book earlier if you want to read it sooner. Officially. I think there will be more news regarding this coming really soon. I think it will happen within this month. So if you are a reader who cannot wait any longer to read Disquiet Gods as soon as possible, then yeah, this option is open. Otherwise, the official release date for Disquiet Gods is still in April 2024. And now let's go back to discuss about special editions. The first one is regarding Curious King's update. The Blade itself by Joe Abercrombie, the Curious King edition, is my favorite special edition of all time. It's the most beautiful book that I own right now. And one of the biggest reasons is due to the mega stunning cover art illustrated by Tommy Arnold. So Tommy Arnold and also Curious King has collaborated to do a limited copies, I think 50 printing of the cover art in very high production printing signed by Tommy Arnold. I think that will actually happen within this month. And on top of that, Curious King has also mentioned that the pre-order date for Before They Are Hanged, the second book in the First Law trilogy, Curious King edition, will take place in March 2024. And also, this is not the official reveal, but Joe Abercrombie has mentioned in his year-end review that Vance Kovacs will be doing the artwork for Before They Are Hanged. Vance Kovacs is an amazing artist. He is one of the concept artists behind God of War Ragnarok, and everything that he did in that God of War Ragnarok turns out absolutely incredible. I cannot wait to see what he will do for Before They Are Hanged, but I have no idea whether this is only for the cover art or maybe for the interior artworks or something. Let's wait for more details from Curious King or Joe Abercrombie. And last update from the Curious King, their special edition of the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin and Hyperion by Dan Simmons will ship in the first half of 2024. Hopefully, anyway. So yeah, that's big updates, and I cannot wait to see what Curious King will do next. And then the next update will be from Folio Society. Folio Society is doing their own special edition of The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, the first book in the Wayfarers quartet. Yeah, it is a quartet. And as I said, I am not a fan of this book. I haven't finished reading this book. I have DNF'd it probably 3 times. But I know that there are many fans of the Wayfarer series, and I think this edition will be limited to 750 copies. So if you are a fan of the Wayfarer series and you want to take a shot at getting yourself a copy of The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet Folio Society edition, make sure to mark the date January 25th because the pre-order will happen during that date. And moving on to the next one, Subterranean Press is doing a special edition of Starling House by Alix Harrow. And once again, just like the Once and Future Witches Subterranean Press edition, Rowena Kai is back once again to illustrate their edition. Only the cover art and the end paper have been revealed so far, and I haven't read the book yet, but I know the standard edition of Starling House actually already contains 4 interior illustrations by Rowena Kai, and I look forward to reading this book as soon as I can. And moving on to the final 2 special editions to spotlight today, this will be, of course, from the Broken Binding. Just like Wraithmarked, I think Wraithmarked and the Broken Binding are really staple in SFF Spotlight when it comes to the matter of special editions. And the first one to spotlight will be for Never Die. Never Die is their next Broken Binding press title, and it is on sale now. The first book in the Mortal Techniques is on sale now, and I think it's looking pretty good. The cover art and the interior artworks will be done by Felix Ortiz. There will be a full color illustration inside as well from Andrew Maleski, and also a new map by Charis Luke. I'll Have Never Die, I think this was the book that made me become a fan of Rob J. Hayes' books, but my personal favorite books in the Mortal Techniques is Spirits of Vengeance. That said, I think this edition looks amazing and the production value has been increased as well. The thickness of the acid-free paper has been increased to 90 GSM, and also it comes with Smithson binding and everything that I just mentioned. So make sure to check it out. I think Broken Binding Press will only get better and better. And finally, the last special edition to spotlight today will be for the Broken Binding edition of the Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett, the first book in the shadow of the Leviathan series, a murder mystery fantasy series. I have read this book last year, and as expected of Robert Jackson Bennett, he delivered another really good fantasy book with murder mystery element. To put it simply, I call this one Sherlock Holmes in an Attack on Titan inspired fantasy setting. I was on a dilemma on whether to get the US or the UK edition, but now with this edition being available, well, my decision has been settled. I will have to get a copy of the Tainted Cup, the Broken Binding edition. So that's it for the topic of Kickstarter and special editions. Now let's move on to talk about some TV show adaptation. The first one is regarding Henry Cavill's Warhammer 40,000 adaptation, or the Warhammer 40k universe, cinematic universe, I guess. There aren't too many news on this yet, but Games Workshop has confirmed it has signed a full agreement with Amazon and the next stage can begin. I think this is pretty much a green-lit sign. I know about Warhammer 40k, I have played some video games on it, video games adaptation, but personally I haven't read the books yet and I don't know where to start. I have heard that it is good to start from the Eisenhorn trilogy, so I think I will start from that, but do let me know what you think about it. Should I start from Eisenhorn trilogy or other series in the universe, in the massive universe? I know that Warhammer 40k is one of the biggest sci-fi universe of all time. And the next one is about A Song of Ice and Fire animation adaptation update. In a blog post before 2023 ended, George Martin shared how the animated series Blue Eye Samurai inspired him. He also detailed how animated series have come a long way, such as the success of Love, Death plus Robots. And with that in mind, George Martin also unveiled that there were 4 ideas for animated shows, but 2 of these projects were subsequently shelved. The 9 Voyages was transitioned from a live action to animation, as it could be very expensive, with half of the show taking place at sea. But do know that George Martin also noted that none of them have been greenlit yet, but I think we are getting close to taking the next step with a couple of them. I think it will actually be great to have more animation adaptation. I love Blue Eye Samurai, I love anime, and speaking of anime, the next topic is regarding The Boy and the Heron, Studio Ghibli movies. I haven't watched this one. I know it's so insane. I have watched everything by Studio Ghibli, but I haven't watched The Boy and the Heron yet. But The Boy and the Heron, directed by Hayao Miyazaki, has won for the first time in history the best animation in the Golden Globe. So yeah, it is a record-breaking achievement from Studio Ghibli. And at the same time, for those of you who don't know, Studio Ghibli is the only Japanese animation studio to ever won an Oscar with a Japanese anime movie, and it was for Spirited Away. And with Spirited Away, again directed by Hayao Miyazaki, I think it is just amazing, and I look forward to watching The Boy and the Heron as soon as I can. Life has been super busy lately and I haven't got the time to go to the theater to watch The Boy and the Heron. And by the way, speaking of anime, the next spotlight will be for Solo Leveling. The Solo Leveling anime, after all the wait, it is now out. The first episode is out now, and after I finish recording this video, I will watch it. I am so excited about this. Solo Leveling is one of my favorite manhwas, and if you have watched the first episode, do let me know what you think about it. For those of you who haven't read the manhwa or you are waiting for the anime, well, it is out now, and I highly recommend you to check it out. I think it is available on Crunchyroll. And finally, the last topic before we move on to talk about some cover reveals and noteworthy release, this will be regarding Noragami by Adachi Toka. The manga series Noragami by Adachi Toka has been completed. It is over. It has reached the end after, I think, a decade of publication. Now I will be reading it from the beginning to the end soon. Very excited about this. I think this is an incredible manga, quite underrated and not talked about enough. If you love Japanese mythologies with great actions and character development, definitely pick up a Noragami by Adachi Toka. I look forward to finding out how the series ended. And now we move on to the next section of SFF Spotlight. Time to talk about some cover reveals. The first one, I don't usually do this, but this is for a foreign edition of The Will of the Many. Take a look at this. Apparently, this cover art is not even finished yet, but I think this cover art of The Will of the Many, the Italian edition, tops over every other available editions for The Will of the Many. I wish the US or the UK cover art of The Will of the Many actually comes with this absolutely gorgeous cover art by Venditti Antonello, and hopefully this will happen someday. I love the edition, the Broken Binding edition with the cover art by Kachina Paints, but I think I like this one even more. This one looks absolutely gorgeous. It is on par with the naked cover art of the Broken Binding edition in my opinion, which is again illustrated by Kachina Paints. But moving on to the next one, this is for The Book That Broke the World by Mark Lawrence, the second book in the Library trilogy, and the cover art is done by, again, Tom Roberts, the same cover artist behind The Book That Wouldn't Burn, the first book in the Library trilogy. And I haven't read this series yet. I look forward to reading this for the first time. I don't know when, but hopefully as soon as I can, because I finally have a copy of The Book That Wouldn't Burn thanks to one of my patrons, and I think this cover art with a blue color scheme with the matching design to the first book in the trilogy looks stunning. And for the next three cover reveals that I will be talking about, all of them are South Asian inspired fantasy. The first one that I want to showcase here, this is for the sequel to the first binding, The Doors of Midnight. Take a look at this beautiful cover art. I think this cover art actually looks even better compared to the first binding. Here is hoping that the book will be even better than the first binding as well. The cover art is once again done by Felipe de Barros. This is the UK cover art, and this is the US cover art. It pretty much has the same cover art just like the first binding, but with a different design. Do let me know which cover art do you like more? And I look forward to reading the second book in the Tales of Tremaine. The sequel to the first binding will be out in August 2024. I just hope that my memory of the details on the first binding will be enough for me to enjoy reading The Doors of Midnight. And the next cover reveal and also book announcement will be for a debut novel titled The Spice Gate by Prasant Srivatsa. And this is a debut fantasy novel with a young man with the ability to travel between the 8 kingdoms. The premise do sound interesting, and I have enjoyed a lot of South Asian inspired fantasy, so I think I will check this one out when it's out. And the last South Asian inspired fantasy cover reveals, well, for this one, the cover art is not out yet. The cover art will be revealed on the 12th of January. But this one will be for the third book in the Burning Kingdoms trilogy by Tasha Suri. This is the final book in the series that begins with the Jasmine Throne and also the sequel, The Oleander Sword. The title of the third and the final book in the trilogy will be The Lotus Empire. I haven't read this series yet, but I look forward to reading it. I have been waiting for the series to be completed before diving into this one, so yeah, apologies. Some series, there are plenty of fantasy series where I do wait for them to be completed first before I decide to read them. But as far as cover art goes, I think it has been confirmed that the cover art will be once again illustrated by the amazing Micah Epstein. So yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing how beautiful the cover art will be. It is guaranteed to be gorgeous, definitely. And the Burning Kingdom trilogy is published by Orbit Books, and the next cover reveal will be for a book again published by Orbit Books. This is for Blacklight Born by Alexander Darwin, the third book in the Combat Code saga. The cover art has been revealed, and I think this one is the best of the trilogy so far. Best cover art of the entire trilogy. I have read the series when it was still in its self-published state, but since then it has been picked up by Orbit Books, and I assume a new round of editing has polished and improved the quality of the narrative even further. And speaking of self-published fantasy books, the last three cover reveals that I want to spotlight today, all of them are for self-published fantasy books. Let's talk about the first one. The first one will be for Demon's Rage by Ben Gailey and David Estes. This is published by Wraithmarked Creative, and this is the second book in the Bloodwood saga. I think the cover to this one, illustrated by Mansik Young or Yam, looks even better compared to the first one, which I thought wasn't possible. The cover to the first book already looks so incredible, but somehow Mansik Young and Wraithmarked managed to top it even more with The Demon's Rage. I think this year will be the first time I read something by Ben Gailey. I think it's kinda insane that I still haven't read anything by Ben Gailey yet. And the next cover reveal will be for The Dark Kingdom by Wick Welker. This will be a sequel novella to the Dark Theories. So it will take place between book 1 and book 2 of the series. The cover art is once again done by Damonza, and I really enjoyed reading Dark Theory. I think Dark Theory is a great science fantasy book with a lot of difficult science fiction concepts. Difficult scientific concepts being included into the book, but well, it worked really well to the narrative, and I cannot wait to find out what's going to happen next. This sequel novella will come out in March 2024. And finally, the last cover reveal of today's episode will be for To the Bloody End by Rachel Aaron. The cover art is again illustrated by Louisa Preisler, and the cover art to this entire trilogy is spectacular. I think ever since Rachel Aaron decided to commission Louisa Preisler as her cover artist, every cover art that Rachel Aaron has is just something amazing in my opinion. Hopefully there will be a hardcover edition of her book someday, starting from the Heartstrikers series. And this one, To the Bloody End, is the conclusion. I think it is the conclusion to the DFZ Changeling series, which is kind of like a spin-off or a sequel series to the DFZ, which is already a sequel series to the Heartstrikers series. So yeah, that's a lot of series being mentioned. But yeah, I really love the Heartstrikers, and I hope to read DFZ as soon as I can and then dive into DFZ Changeling after that. And now let's move on to the final section of today's SFF Spotlight episode. Noteworthy release. I have two books to spotlight today. The first one will be for The Slain Divine by David Douglas. This is the third and the final book in the Vegan Gods trilogy. I have read only the first book, The Bladed Fate, and I think it's about time I start reading the series again. I think David Douglas did a great job in including a detailed summary on what happened before in the first book in Sapphire Altar, the second book in the trilogy, and I assume this will be replicated again in the third book, The Slain Divine. And I think The Slain Divine has the best cover art of the entire trilogy. Finally, the last thing to spotlight today, this will be for the US physical release of Sons of Darkness by Gaurav Mohanty, the first book in the Rack of Rata series, and well, this is one of my favorite books, one of my favorite grimdark fantasy debut, and I read this one in the year 2022, and although this has been traditionally published in the year 2023, the US physical release is only out now. So if you're in the United States and you've been waiting to get yourself a physical copy of the Sons of Darkness, it is possible to do it now. And yeah, I think that's about it for today's SFF Spotlight episode. Once again, I think this episode is jam-packed, and I know many of you have been asking me when is the next SFF Spotlight episode being released. And again, thank you so much for all the anticipation. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate all of you for tuning in into SFF Spotlight. I plan to do my best with SFF Spotlight again this year. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for me today. Do let me know what you think about all the news that I spotlighted in today's video. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your support. Bye bye. Lastly, I want to say thank you so much once again to all my patrons who keep on supporting me.